Hey, what's up YouTube? We're going to be doing a Flesh and Blood constructed tier list today. This is purely of my own experience with Flesh and Blood. I don't have any data right now. I'm still waiting for a bunch of events to run so I can start gathering data and start building some more of the schematics that show all the win percentages for every hero and stuff like that. So right now, I'm sorry, you're going to just have to trust my word on it. Well, not trust. Everyone should think for themselves, and if you think that a different hero is better than what I'm saying, maybe you're correct. I don't know. I don't have the data to prove any of this stuff. This is purely of my own speculation and own experience based off the data that I've gathered before. Also, if there are any heroes here that you would like me to do a deck for, nowadays I do my videos and my deck optimization based on what the patrons ask me to do. So if you're in the appropriate tier over on Patreon, you can always ask me like, hey Kugane, can you please make a deck for this or that hero? Even though I'm probably not gonna put a lot of work into the B and C tier heroes, I want my Patreon to be as competitive as possible and to be as supportive for people that actually want to win tournaments, I'm very sorry to say. But yeah, we're going to do a Blitz one soon as well, right before the skirmish season, but for now we need to choose which heroes are top tier in the constructed format. So first things first, I will get a bunch of heroes out of the way that are going to usually upset a bunch of people. Like when I put stuff in the B and the C tier, then I tend to get a lot of comments like, that's wrong, that should be much higher than what you put it, or that should be much lower. But well, I don't care. I think Dash, Reiner and Azalea are B and C tier heroes. Same with things like Dramai. I think Dramai is a cool deck, but I haven't seen anyone actually making it work the way that it's supposed to. So for now, I think Dramai is definitely a B tier hero as well. For the A tier, I think Katsu is definitely up there. Katsu has a much better matchup now with Chain Gun, as well as, what's the big guy called, Starvo. So Starvo is not really making Katsu's life a living hell anymore. I think Bravo is probably an A tier hero now, and what else? Dorinthia, I'm not sure. Like, I would place Dorinthia somewhere between A and B, simply because she has a good matchup against a bunch of the newer heroes, especially things like Phi, because Dorinthia's attacks are far easier to hit. But she also has a very good matchup against things like Dramai, I would say. But the question is, are there gonna be that many heroes in the format that she can bully in order to have good results? Because she still has a very bad matchups against, I think Prism is a bad matchup for her. Maybe I'm mistaken, I haven't really seen much of Prism versus Dorinthia. But Dorinthia has been performing quite poorly because her value is just not as much as some of the other heroes out there. But I'll just put her in the A tier for now, simply because I do think Dorinthia has quite a bit of potential. Same with Bolton. Now that Chain is gone, I think Bolton combo is definitely a strategy that is worth investigating and playing. Viscerai is one of those decks that a lot of people are kind of underestimating. I have been working with some Viscerai players, and I have to say the damage output of Viscerai, even without the big Bloodsheet Skeletor combo, is still absolutely sickening. So it wouldn't surprise me if somebody out there actually snatches like a first place at a big event with a deck like Viscerai. So personally, based on the experience and the things that I've seen for Viscerai, I think it's definitely still an S tier hero. It's just not as explosive as it used to be when it still had the Bloodsheet Skeletor going for it. So I think I will put it over there. Icelander, I honestly don't know. I haven't really seen enough Icelander gameplay and enough Icelanders performing well to really have a solid opinion about this hero. I do think on paper though that it's definitely gonna be a good hero in the constructed format. I just don't know how good it's gonna be. So I would assume that it's probably at least A tier based on the amount of disruption it can present to the opponent. But if it's gonna stay in the A tier, even move up to the S or down to the B tier, I just do not know. I will update this as soon as I have more experience and have seen more games of Icelander in the constructed format. But we've seen that she performs very well in Blitz, and usually the decks that perform well in Blitz tend to translate quite easily over to the constructed format as well. So I think she's definitely an A tier hero and I will leave her there. Prism, definitely an S tier hero. Prism is going to be bullying, and most likely this is an S tier 2.0 hero because Prism is absolutely nuts. If I had to downshift everything, she would probably be at the very top of everything. It's probably the best deck in the format because every other S tier hero, like Ulteam, that is very strong against pretty much everything except Prism. Like, these would all be downshifted as soon as there are a bunch of Prisms in the format. Kano is definitely an S tier hero. We've seen Kano do very well at the Pro Tour. Briar, definitely S tier as well. Maybe A tier, I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think it's definitely an S tier hero simply because Briar is so consistent and can put out so much damage at once. Fi, I want to put Fi in the S tier, but Fi has a very significant flaw. For one, his thing cares all about I'm struggling on my words. His thing cares a lot about the combat chain and having like very big chains, which is something that Ulteam and Prism can disrupt rather nicely. On top of that, his damage output is somewhat on par with Briar, but Briar's damage output... then Briar's defenses are just a bit better than Fi, so I feel like if the damage output of both these decks is the same, then maybe you're just better off playing a Briar deck in general. So I feel like Fi is very close to being top tier, but it's just like that little bit off. That's like, it just needs that little bit more defensive power to really be S tier. Because of that, I'm going to be placing it in the A tier. I don't want to place it there. This is probably going to be my main deck for quite some time. But I don't think it has S tier potential simply because it can get blanked by something like an Arclight Sentinel. Of course, in my build that I also showcased on the channel a few days ago, I do play Time Snap Potions in order to combat the Prism strategy, but you still run into trouble that if you have your time snaps on the field and you crack your time snaps in your big combo turn, even though things like the Stubby Hammers still work, if you even run the Stubby Hammers, because the Shukus are also a very good pick against Prism, you still run into issues that if they Arclight Sentinel you, your combat chain is going to break, which means that your Rupture cards don't get all the bonus effects, and it just makes it very awkward in general. On top of that, Kano is very easy to just take damage and combo off at the right time against a Fi deck, and stuff like Briar, because they have the Rosetta Taunt available to them, they can face roll Fi at a very significant pace. If they get a bit lucky and they outpace Fi quite a bit, you can run into a significant amount of trouble, so therefore I place him in the A tier for the time being, but more like an A 1.5 kind of situation, that is almost S tier but not quite there yet. Levia, I haven't really seen much Levia footage in the new format. I would assume that Levia is probably still a C tier hero. If you have experience with Levia and you've had a lot of matchups against the stuff that I put over on the S tier up here, please reach out to me, give me your results, tell me how your gameplay went, because I'm very interested to see how Levia is going to perform. In the past though, in my past results from the previous meta, I had very poor results coming in from Levia, so I definitely don't think much has changed for her. I believe, I'm not sure, does Erase Face make things even more awkward for Levia? Is Erase Face just a very good weapon in her arsenal? Well, Erase Face does help Levia quite a bit because it turns things like Prism and such offline with all the illusionist keywords, but I don't know if all of that is enough to push it up to the B tier, so I'll put it in C tier for now. I'm happy to see though that right now with Chain and Star of Kugane that pretty much all the heroes in Flesh and Blood have some chance of performing, which is more akin to how Flesh and Blood used to be right before things like Monarch got released. Like, most heroes are kind of viable now. Like, some have very bad matchups of course, but all of them that are legal for play right now seem to be doing quite well, which is something I'm very happy to see, which means that now people can start going for their favorite hero instead of always having to go for the top tier hero, which is kind of good on the one hand, but on the other hand I do think a huge portion of that is because there's so much RNG in Flesh and Blood nowadays, even though back in the day it was more skill driven in my opinion. But there are people that vary in opinion in regards to that. But I don't think there is like a solid D tier hero anymore. All the heroes seem to perform decently. Even Azalea is doing quite well now with the Rita glide paths and stuff like that. So I think like this, it's kind of representative for the current metagame. And then finally we have Lexi. I think Lexi is definitely an S tier hero. Lexi, like most of the ice heroes, they have just enough disruption to turn off the aggro plan of most of the big aggro heroes out there, which is something that is very important in the current metagame. Personally, I feel like Ultim might become a bit overpowered if stuff like Prism is no longer in the format, simply because they have so many ways of avoiding damage. Of course, Ultim struggles a little bit against decks like Fi now that go ultra wide, and I guess maybe if we have like an ultra wide Katsu strategy that could also perform a little bit decently against Ultim. But Ultim is so efficient in general, they can, with very minimal resources, they can stop a huge chunk of damage coming in, so I'm not sure if there is a true aggro strategy that can really punish Ultim properly. Of course, Fi does have some ways to really spread out the damage that makes it more difficult for Ultim, but I'm not sure if it's enough. Like something like Bolton may be up to the task because Bolton can do the big Lumina Ascension combo, but even that, is it enough? Is it enough to overthrow an Ultim player? Or something like a Rout? Is Rout enough in Dorinthia to stop Ultim from doing its thing? I'm not sure. Feel free to tell me what you think about it. But for now, I think this is my tier list right now. Maybe Viceroy in a similar fashion as Fi should be in the A tier slot, but I've seen Viceroy do some amazing things, and I think people that are Viceroy mains are going to have a lot of fun in the current format. So for now, let's just leave him up there. If you agree with this tier list, hit the thumbs up button. If you don't agree with the tier list, feel free to dislike the video and leave your angry comments down below so that I can ignore them. And other than that, I will start gathering data, and I will see you all soon once I have some actual data to see if my speculation with the tier list is on par or if I'm completely wrong and I should just play more Flesh and Blood, something like that. Anyways, thank you for watching everyone. See you all very soon with the next video. Take care.